Hey guys, what's going on? Jordan here. Welcome back to the channel. Thank you for stopping by. So today I want to discuss two cameras that I own and which one of their 4K is better in my opinion, or if it really even matters. So we're going to be talking about the EOS RP versus the Canon SL3, and we're going to go ahead and get into it right now. So basically these two cameras right here both have the same Digic 8 processor in it. So does it really even make a difference? I mean, obviously one is full frame, the other one is APS-C. So when push comes to shove, is the higher price tag for the full frame better than the price tag for the EOS SL3? Or, I mean, should you just basically just throw all of your money into this full frame camera and then just be done with it? So here's what I found. So first I started off by shooting 4K. And then basically what I did is I cropped it in. So the 4K that comes out of it, and then I cropped it into 100%, I cropped it into 200%, and I cropped it into 300%. And to be honest, 100 and 200 were good. 300 was not. So basically once you crop it in 300 times, you lose a lot of the sharpness and detail that you would get from the 4K image. So take that into consideration. If you're needing to crop in a whole lot on this, you're going to lose a lot of detail once you crop it in way too much. I use DaVinci Resolve, so basically when I crop this in, I cropped it in from a 1 times to 2 times crop, and then 2 times to 3 times, and then 3 times to 4 times crop, which roughly should be about 100, 200, and 300. At a 300% crop, it just, like I said, I mean, you lose a lot of the detail in the 4K. So it's really not worth it. I would say probably the most you should be able to crop this in is about 150%. So in between a 1 and 200%, obviously, is probably going to be your best bet. You're still going to get a pretty decent crop for what you need, especially if you're using like a telephoto lens. But anything past 200 realistically isn't really usable. So just take that into consideration. Another thing that I did with this too, I did it with the SL3, so once I get into that, we'll discuss the numbers on that one. So I set this up on a tripod, and I cleared everything off the memory card. I charged as many batteries as I could. So I had 4 fresh batteries, 2 for this one, 2 for the SL3, and running this 4K at 24 frames a second with the Digic 8 processor. So I was able to get 2 batteries, and so basically I was able to run this through 2 batteries. I wanted to see how long I could record with 1 battery on this. So the very first test that I did with the EOS RP, I got 1 hour, 47 minutes, and 51 seconds. And so the 30-minute record limit was actually kind of nice because I could just guesstimate. So I did 3 half hours, and then I had like another 16 minutes or so. The second test I did on the EOS RP was actually 1 hour, 18 minutes, and 28 seconds. And then the very third test I did was 1 hour, 28 minutes, and 54 seconds. So I'm thinking, because I wasn't keeping track of what batteries I was putting in this, one of my batteries was like brand new. So I'm thinking the very first battery I had in here was like the brand new battery, and then the other 2 were obviously the older batteries that I had. One of them of which is actually from the SL3. So just keep that into consideration too. Fresh batteries, you'll probably get a little bit longer runtime out of them, but if you have older batteries, you might not get as long of a runtime recording wise. And actually, so while I was doing this too, I did notice that the EOS RP was heating up quite a bit. Same with the SL3. I actually didn't try to do it with the SL3 just because I figured most people are probably looking at a full frame camera just for the fact of its full frame. So I don't have like a heating box, but I have a heating pad. So basically what I did was I kept recording. So I was on like a 3-hour record thing because I did 2 time lapses right in a row, replacing the batteries and stuff. So I was at the end of about 3 hours. I've put in a fresh battery, and I put a heating pad on top of this, just trying to get it to see if I could overheat it in 4K, and I actually couldn't. I had the heating pad on there. I don't know how long it heated it for until the timer inside of the heating pad kicked off, but I mean, this was pretty warm to the touch, just recording 4K by itself. Obviously, when I put the heating pad on it, it was a lot hotter, but I actually couldn't get it to overheat. I may try to do some other tests out in like the sun and see if I can get it to overheat and just try to like running batteries through it, running batteries through it and stuff like that. But as far as I could tell, I couldn't get it to overheat inside. So now we're going to switch over to the SL3. Now, same processor in this. This has the Digic 8 processor, but it is APS-C size sensor, so you're getting the 1.6 times crop in this. Now, as far as 4K goes, same thing. 4K does the contrast autofocus, but the thing with this 4K is it actually crops it in more due to Canon using a smaller portion of this sensor just to get a cleaner and sharper image. So my give on this, or my take on this, is how I did the math. I basically got to a 2.6 times crop. So just take that into consideration. I did also do 1080 on this as well, so I'll get into that too. So the same thing with this 4K at 24 frames a second. I recorded in 1080p PAL or PAL at 25 frames a second. Just because this doesn't have 24 frames in 1080, so I just wanted to make it as close as possible. But same thing with this. Anything past 200% crop in with the image, really just like you lose a lot of detail and a lot of sharpness in the image. So this is very similar to the EOS RP. I would say roughly about 150% crop in on a video file is really where you want to be at in 4K. So just keep that into consideration. It really, like, they're very similar cameras. You just get an APS-C size one with this, but you also save a lot more money, so you can buy better lenses, maybe sharper lenses. Like I said, I hooked this up to the Tamron 70 to 210 millimeter f4, and I got pretty similar results. Now, when I switched this over into 1080p at 25 frames a second, I recorded in 1080, so I had the 70 to 210 on there plus a 1.6 times crop, and then I switched this over to the 3 to 10 times zoom, and what I found is at about 5% or 5 times zoom on this camera was roughly about the same, if not a little bit more like zoomed in. Very similar to the 4K zoom that I had on this with the 70 to 210 millimeter. So something to keep in mind. If you need like crazy good autofocus for dual pixel autofocus, you can throw this into PAL at 1080 at 25 if 24 frames a second is your thing, and you can still get the dual pixel autofocus. Cropping it in, I wouldn't say going past 5 times crop if you're doing the live view crop on this is any better than just doing the 4K. But you're also going to get smaller file sizes too, so just keep that into consideration. Now, same thing, I did the record limit times. So I had, for the very first test, which I'm pretty sure that it was the original battery that came with this one, but for the very first test on this, it was 1 hour, 25 minutes, and 33 seconds for the very first runtime session. The second was 1 hour, 46 minutes, and 57 seconds. So the third and final test was 1 hour, 51 minutes, and 2 seconds. So something to consider. So you actually probably would get a little bit of a longer runtime with the SL3 depending on how new or how used your batteries are. The very first test I did this with, I'm not sure if the battery was 100% charged. I think I remember putting a brand new fresh battery in it. So it might have been the original battery that came with the Canon SL3. So just something to consider. So in conclusion, if you are looking for a camera and you either are looking at the EOS RP, or you're looking for just a small cheap or if you're looking for just a small cheap DSLR like a Canon EOS Rebel SL3. It's kind of hard to say. I really love this camera. I think that this would, like I've said before, this would be a really good backup camera to something like this, or this would be a really good A cam, or like let's say if you bought this and this was your only camera, I think that this would probably be your best bet, simply due to the price. It's small enough that, I mean, even it's a little bit more chunky than the EOS RP, obviously, so take that into consideration. It is a DSLR. You are getting APS-C sensor on this, so you're not getting a true full frame. But for what this camera does, for being a small DSLR, I think that you probably would be better off with this camera. Like I said, I've used this camera for God knows how long, over a year now, and I still think that this would probably be, like, if I were choosing between the two, this would still probably be my first choice in purchase, just due to the price, number one. Number two, EF glass. So you get a huge lineup of Canon EF glass, plus a huge lineup of third-party options. You can find them used pretty cheap too. I bought this refurbished from Canon. I think I paid $430 for the body itself. You could probably find these used on like Facebook Marketplace or eBay. So if you don't want to buy the SL3, also the SL2 is identical to this. It's just a little bit older. So just take that into consideration. But if you want to flex on people and go full frame, the images that come out of this are beautiful too. Since I bought this back in December, I have been using it nonstop just to kind of like do a lot of comparisons and stuff, but I mean, they're both pretty similar cameras. One's just a APS-C DSLR and the other one's a full frame mirrorless, so take it as it is. So if that helped you guys at all, hopefully it did, go ahead and smash the like button, hit the thumbs up button, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit all the buttons, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.